Alright, welcome to the Caribbean. We are right now making our left turn over the top of the island of Puerto Rico. You can see right here on the moving map where we are. And we're going to go right over top of the island and then over top of St. Croix on our way down into St. Kitts. We are in the CRJ-900. American Eagle today. And it'll be a neat way to see Puerto Rico, I think. I've never really seen it from this perspective. We are exactly 30 minutes out of St. Kitts. That equates to 263 nautical miles. Still blows my mind how fast these things go, these jets. 263 nautical miles in the planes that I normally fly takes, a couple hours. And this is but a brief period of time. So this is Puerto Rico. We got traffic oncoming, it looks like there. And that is, let's see, who is that? My iPad's gonna be too slow to tell me. That's United 2206 right there. Passing overhead at 37,000 feet. And that's real world traffic. That was an actual, where'd he go? That was an actual real world airplane. But got a good headwind today. 535 knots of ground speed. I mean, that is fast. So we're gonna take, we've got maybe 15 minutes to the top of descent. I've got my own top of descent set up right here. That is before the top of descent, set up by the computer, the flight computer, and the reason I did that is just because, especially with an approach, I haven't flown in this airplane. I have flown this approach. Well, not the approach. I've flown into the airport. I haven't flown this approach in any airplane. But let's enjoy the views out the window here. We take a look at St. Kitts. We're going to be coming in from this direction, landing this way. Got some higher terrain over here, so there's a little bit of a higher the glide slope is steeper, and the minimums on the approach are very, very high, 1,270 feet. It's a non-precision approach, but 1,270 feet is pretty darn high for minimums. You can see the airplane moving around a little bit because we're over, it's mountainous, the island of Puerto Rico, so you can see it there, high landing minimum. So rapidly rising terrain, northeast and northwest and northeast in all quadrants, so that's all this up here. Circle to land not authorized north of the runway, which is again up here. High landing minimums. Elevation is 168 feet, so we can put that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see if that's gonna give us what we want here. No. Did I move the wrong one? I did move the wrong one. It's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can see the plane's really moving around now. Alright, so minimum's 160. Or landing elevation's 160, that's fine. San Juan down over here. Really kind of a cool way of seeing the island. We're going to go right over top of St. Croix too. We'll go right past Vieques. Kind of just south of Vieques. Alright, so we've looked at this. We can unpin that. Let's have a look at the overview. Bradshaw is located at the southeastern end of St. Kitts. St. Kitts on Leeward Islands. Dun, 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 dun. 17 miles long by 5 miles. At its widest point, interior coast consists of volcanic mountains. Dun, 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 dun. There's old San Juan right there. I think that's the... No, that's not the airport. Where's the airport? The smaller airport is over here somewhere. The bigger airport, I believe. I think it might be right there. But it is a pretty cool view, isn't it? Alright, heavy bird concentrations. Alright. Obstruction of visibility. This is all typical kind of weather information for the Caribbean. I do think it's really cool that Jeppesen gives you all this information. So there's Vieques right there. Here's Vieques, here's Culebra. That's St. Thomas? It is St. Thomas. Let's see here. We're getting pretty close to our top of descent here. We are. Move this in. Alright, runway is right-hand traffic. Visual guidance provided by a 3.45 degree PAPI, which means it's steeper than normal, and a displaced threshold tells you the same thing. This is that rising terrain right there. So all that tells you that you've got some terrain to deal with, and just to be cognizant of that. I like looking at the notes and kind of getting a lay of the land, literally, what's going on. And again, that's kind of the cool thing about these Jeppesen charts, is they give you all this really cool information. Alright, let me get my chair settled in here. Of course, you wouldn't have to do this in an actual airplane. Your chair doesn't move around very much in an actual airplane. It's weird when you're in a real plane, when you're actually flying a real plane, like, you might be uncomfortable, but you don't even really know it because you're mentally so involved in what you're doing. So, alright. Cool view of Vieques. There's the approach. Just don't want to stick my head out the window here, do I? So beautiful. Really pretty cool. Alright, let's pull out our descent checklist. Landing level set. Fuel. I actually did the proper fuel calculation this time. We're burning 3,600 an hour right now. Both sides, and we've got 7,700 pounds of fuel on board. But once we start the descent, we're basically going to go back to about 800 gallons total an hour in the descent. So, all right, TCAS radar CAS. So TCAS is set. Radar I know is off. Let's check the CAS. CAS is looking just fine. Nothing over here that tells us anything we need to know. All right, landing data. We'll get to that a little bit. Well, let's have a look here. Let's get the fuel from the aircraft. It'll give us a VREF of 137 knots. Alright, we'll set that in the airplane, and then let's check. Alright, we gotta do the approach briefing here. We've got about, looks like a couple minutes. Alright, so we are going to, let's do it from the top. Alright, Bradshaw Approach 119.6, Bradshaw Tower 118.3, ground point 9er. When I say ground point 9er, and when you ever hear controllers say ground point 9er, it's always assumed that it's 121. For whatever reason, that's always a ground frequency. So if they ever say ground point 9er, that's what they mean, ground 121.9. Alright, it's an RNAV approach, so white needles, which we're on, and white needles are these, using the FMS 1. Final approach course 071. Flight slope intercept at Amida, 2,000 feet, that's 1,832 feet above airport elevation. LNAV minimum is 1,270 feet, like I said. It's 1,102 feet above airport elevation, which is very high for approach minimums. Actually, let me move this down here a little bit. Airport elevation 168 feet, missed approach, climb to 3,000 direct UDGEL and hold, or as directed by ATC. Altimeter set is inches, transition level by ATC, which we don't have, so I just set that to the transition altitude, which is 5,000 feet. GNSS required, we have DME not authorized. Unless ATC clearance is obtained for an RNAV GNSS procedure, the navigation and position reporting of all aircraft shall be conducted with reference to conventional ground-based navigation aids. Blah, 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 blah. Alright, so we're going to be coming in Gabar at 3,200, heading a 170 to Amono. That's the initial approach fix. Slight left turn to 161 heading, 6 miles, 3,200 feet still. Then we get to Lamdo, which is the intermediate fix. Cross Lamdo at 3,200 feet on an inbound course of 071. Cross Lamdo down to 2,000, stay at 2,000 to Düssel, and then Düssel or Amida. Flight slope intercept at Amida. And this is where this is going to come in. This is going to be important. So 140 knots ground speed. It's going to be 855 foot descent angle, which is because the descent angle is steeper than normal. Normally at 140 knots, it's 743 feet. So we need a steeper angle of descent coming down. PAPI on the left-hand side of the runway. It's the precision approach path indicator, and here's St. Croix. Alright, let's get a look at our VNAV page here real quick. Dun, dun, dun. Descent info 2148. Alright, so now what we're going to do is 3,200. Probably should have been doing this instead of running my mouth. Kind of always guilty of that. 3,200 feet. Let's pull the power back. Vertical speed mode. Down. Let's see. Let's go 2,300 feet a minute. It's not going to require that. go 24, just get down there a little quicker. Probably gonna have to go to idle at some point. Alright, so there's St. Thomas up there. British, well, I guess the rest of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then the British Virgin Islands up here. Alright. So let's get that chart out again here. So it's pretty straightforward. So AMITA, 855 feet a minute down. Probably going to set it to 900. But we're going to be breaking off the autopilot probably about 1,500 feet because we've got this minimum, and I don't want the autopilot to fly the mist on me. So once again, we've got that PAPI on the left side, precision approach path indicator. Those 4 red and white lights that give you the vertical guidance down to the runway. We've got standard, I think is a standard approach light system. So we've got the rabbit, which is the lights leading up to the runway. 3,000, the mist approach is climbed to 3,000 straight ahead, and then direct UDGEL, and then hold. And it's actually, interestingly enough, a non-standard holding pattern, which is kind of odd. I mean, I don't know why they would do that, but they did. Left-hand turns are non-standard. You see the arrow going here, so it's a left-hand turn, non-standard. Standard turns in a holding pattern are right-hand turns. And it would be a teardrop entry. Moving the wrong thing there. So you would come out here, hit UDGEL, outbound plus 30 because you're going, because it's non-standard turns, so it's the outbound heading plus 30. So you come out here, turn right to a heading of 101, 071 plus 30. You can make a right-hand turn to 100 for 4 nautical miles. You get when your distance indication is 4 nautical miles, you make a standard rate left-hand turn to intercept the inbound course of 251 and go around in circles. Max holding airspeed is 230 knots. So, good to go. The approach itself, I don't think is going to be much of a challenge. I think I need to come right back to idle here because you can see this, I'm going pretty quick. And what we can do is decrease the vertical speed, come down to 2,000. Right now we only need 1,570 feet a minute to make what we're trying to make. I like to get there a little bit early. So And what I mean by that is I like to get down to, I don't have to be down to 3200 until Gabar, which is right here. This banana is gonna, they call it a banana, is showing me where I'm gonna get down in relation, where I'm gonna reach this altitude. And you can see this is 80 miles, this is 40 miles, so figure I'm gonna be down quite a bit early, maybe 25, 30 miles early, so I can definitely flatten out the descent a little bit. And you can see now that that banana is moving further up, is moving further away because I'm not descending as quickly. I'm also not going as quickly. I'd rather just leave the power at idle. For right now, we are gonna 250 knots is what we're gonna. We're not gonna go below that right now. I don't want to get too slow and make too long of a process out of this. So landing data is set, approach briefing is complete. Before landing checklist. Don't have to worry about that yet. I'm going to bring in some power. Now you can see that we're getting down to you can see that we're getting down to 250 knots. I'll bring in some power so we don't get too slow. So before the landing checklist, flight attendants advised. Passenger signs on, thrust reversers armed, landing gear and flaps. Let us do something intelligent. And let's get our altimeter setting here. Alright, winds are 090 at 13, so pretty much right down the runway. Altimeter 1017. Okay. So, should be good to go. To have this just like this, so I can see what I need to do. So, 77 miles out. $14,000 descending 3,200. Nothing complicated about this approach. The only thing is going to be, does Mike Ryan have the skills to get it done? This one is about hand flying. That's all this approach is about, hand flying. because that that minimum on the approach is so high. And that right there is the backside of Saba. But the you know, like I said, this 1,270 foot minimum on the approach means you're going to be breaking off the autopilot early. Alright, 11.5. Alright, flight attendants prepare for landing. Turn that on. Turn our lights on. It's only like 70... what, 7,500, 77, 7,800 feet of runway, so it's not the longest runway in the world. Not the shortest in the world either, but it's longer than Anguilla. But Anguilla, you've got more. Anguilla, you got more help basically from the autopilot. Easing in a little bit of power here. Alright, we're under 10,000 feet. Landing lights are on. There's Saba again. St. Martin off up over there somewhere. So a little bit more juice here. Start to see the island through the clouds there. So, autopilot wise, Gabar, we're going to be at 3,200 feet. As soon as we cross Gabar, we're going to set the altitude pre-select down to 2,000. So I have these two legs here. Once we cross Lambdo, we're going to start coming down to 2,000. Once we intercept 2,000 feet, altitude select that mode there, 2,000. Yes, 2,000. Then we're going to reset the altitude pre-select above us to 3,000 feet for the mist. And then crossing Amida at 2,000. We're going to descend at 900 feet a minute. and we can adjust that up as necessary. And then at least by 1,500 feet, we're going to pop that autopilot off. St. Kitts traffic, American 264 is 50 miles to the west inbound, RNAV 7, St. Kitts. It's always annoying to non-instrument rated pilots when instrument pilots come on Unicom or the local traffic advisory frequency and say blah 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 Gabar inbound on the RNAV 07, because that means absolutely nothing to a non-instrument rated pilot. But to a non-instrument rated pilot, if you tell them you're 50 miles west and that you're an American Airlines flight, he's probably going to guess that you're moving pretty quickly. Alright, 1017 is the altimeter. I'm going to pull this display in. Alright, so you can see we're going to have about 12 miles or so of level flight, which is good. Don't mean to be going this slow. And slow right down as soon as we level off. So again, nothing particularly special about this approach. There's Saba right there. Nothing particularly complicated. Just your typical L-shaped, well, T-shaped they call them. Because there's this leg here and this leg here, and then the line going into the runway. So typical T-shaped RNAV approach. 1,000 to go. There's that indication right there. And our next airspeed is going to be 210 knots, so I'll dial that in right now. This is just advisory for me. Just a reminder, because, you know, I'm controlling the airspeed with the throttles. So, that's just a reminder to me what airspeed I want. Once we hit out cap here, it's going to be pretty soon. Plane will level off. It'll start slowing down on its own because I'm not going to add any power. It's starting to slow down already. So hoping for, it takes ages to get those last, like, that last tiny bit. Okay, there's out cap. So let's dial this down to 2,000 now. Because that's our next altitude. I want to make sure I'm comfortable here on the pedals. Alright. Alright, now once we get down to 210 knots, we're starting to get close here. Come up to about 60% on the power. Should be right around there. I'm going to put in that first degree of flaps. Anything I'm missing here? Thrust reverser is armed. And this is an approach. I don't know why it happens, but it does every time. Alright, so there's first degree of flaps. Up to about 60 on the power. I'm going to put in now 8 degrees of flaps. A little bit more power. I don't want to get too slow at this point. St. Kitts traffic, American 264 is 25 miles to the west, inbound runway 7, St. Kitts. I'll make my last adjustment here. Now my next airspeed I'm going to want is 180 knots. And we'll start that slow down here pretty quickly. Once we make our turn, the turn itself is going to start slowing us down. Should be on half bank, but it's not. Power back a little bit. So you can see us coming in there. Slow us down to 180, then put in 20 degrees. Alright, passenger signs on, lights are on. Nice view of the island here. Slight left turn. Gonna put in those 20 degrees of flaps now, add some power because it's otherwise we're going to start getting slow here. I don't want to go too crazy. St. Kitts traffic, American 264 is on a 12-mile left base, runway 7, St. Kitts. I definitely don't want to get any slower than I am right now. Alright, we're crossing Lomdo straight down to 2,000 feet. And I don't mind slowing down now a little bit because once we make this turn, start descending, then the airspeed is going to pick up quickly. Airspeed's dropping off a little bit right now, but as soon as we make this turn, go to vertical speed mode, down 1,000 feet a minute. And you're going to see that airspeed come down. Or, well, go up as we come down.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to land. Please remain seated until we have stopped.
Okay, so there we go. St. Kitts, traffic, American 264, 10-mile final, runway 7, St. Kitts. So yeah, airspeed's picking up 170 already. Bringing back some power because I don't want to get too quick here. Alright. Alright, once that captures, there we go. I'll set that altitude pre-select to 3,000. Okay. I'm going full flaps and gear down, baby. We're gonna have to put in some power here to maintain the airspeed. And once we hit Amida, our vertical speed down 1,000 feet a minute, and we gotta pull some power out. St. Kitts, traffic, American 264, 5-mile final, runway 10, or runway 7, St. Kitts. Alright, pull a little bit of power out now. Alright, there's Amida. Start coming down about 900 feet a minute. Pull some power. And we're gonna have to break off this autopilot relatively soon here. Nice stabilized approach here. Just add a hair of power. Alright, coming up on 1,500 feet, autopilot disconnect, put the bar back up. We are now hand flying the airplane. St. Kitts, traffic, American 264, short final, runway 7, St. Kitts. Bring some power out now. Okay, a little bit back in. Little bit back in. Minimum's continuing.
1,000.
Now we gotta pull that nose up. Airspeed's good.
400. 300. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Okay, get the nose gear down. Thrust reversers. I get on the nose brakes. Or the wheel brakes, whatever you want to call them. Alright. Release the thrust reversers. And let's get the decent parking area here. Looks like it's going to be a pretty steep turn here. I thought that was a pretty good approach. Let's go taxi lights on, landing lights off. I had a little bit extra speed to play with, which is what I wanted. And that allowed me, when it started getting the vertical speed, my descent rate started getting a little high. And when that happens and you are dealing with terrain, that's when you start getting nervous. But because I had a little extra speed, and I'm not talking a lot, like maybe a couple of knots, 5 knots, but with that extra speed, what I was able to do is just pull the nose up just a tiny bit. Because that arrests your descent rate, as they say. It slows down your descent rate, and it lets you, and you've got a little extra speed, so you can bleed off that little bit extra speed. I'm guessing this is probably not where I'm supposed to park. I'm probably supposed to park over there, but I'm parking right here, baby. We're parking right in front of the building here. All right. Let's turn off the no parking sign, the seatbelt sign rather. No, you can't smoke. You can't smoke. That one's got to go back on. All right. So, engine number 1 off. Engine number 2 off. All right, baby. Let's go over here. Aircraft. Let's add the nose chocks. Ground power cart, ground air cart. Let's open the doors. Let's open the passenger doors.
Ladies and gentlemen, the door is open.
You know, all things considered, how much fuel do we have left? 7,600 pounds of fuel left. Oh, they're fueling us up already. Okay. So let's pop our heads out here, and there we are. We're at St. Kitts. Beautiful airport, and I think that was a pretty successful flight, I have to say. I mean, that was not really a nerve-wracking approach, but I mean it's a legit approach. And the thing is that's the cool thing about the Caribbean, is that you just don't have these cookie-cutter approaches all the time, where they're all the same. You know, it's all a standard descent rate. There's nothing, you know, unique or unusual. I mean, that's a unique approach. And you know, I think we did a pretty good job. So, welcome to St. Kitts, and hope you enjoyed the flight. We'll see you next time.